So in our final lesson before the midterm exam, we take the time to look at the social media marketing. Well, in this first graphic, we're going to look at the role of social media and specifically asking the question, is social media marketing effective? So we have here this return on investment. It's a business metric, so it's a measurement. And within social media, it's been a contentious topic because it's really hard sometimes to measure the value of marketing in the sense of relating it to hard dollars. So more businesses than ever are devoting an increasing amount of resources into social media marketing. So how do you determine whether those efforts are successful? Well, let's start with this making sense of the imprecise. So 74% of chief marketing officers believe they'll tie social media efforts to hard ROI this year, which is a return on investment. So how do they do that? Well, so ROI is used to evaluate the efficiency of an investment. So is it efficient? In other words, are we wasting our money or not? It measures the amount of return on an investment relative to the investment's cost. So to calculate it, we're going to take the gain from the investment minus the cost of investment. And we'll divide that by the cost of investment. That'll generate a percentage, and then that'll be able to allow us to answer this question, whether our investments are profitable. So if we run this through each type of marketing effort, then we begin to see which ones were worth doing and which ones were not worth doing. So 96% are starting to look beyond sales goals and web metrics to identify the value of social marketing efforts. In other words, as they begin to develop this hard return on investment and seeing what it's showing, at the same time they're beginning to understand the fact that it may not exactly always be about the sales as it is about the value of the efforts themselves. And we're going to look more at that here in a second. So when you look at social media marketing today, you'll see 76% of businesses are using social networking. So now this could be something as simple as email, LinkedIn, Twitter. So 76% of businesses are using social networking. 64% of marketers are integrating social media into their marketing plans. So it's developing. Now you'll notice here this number gets really low though. 11% have been using it for more than 3 years. So really those 11% were kind of ahead of the curve. 9% of businesses using social media have been using it for less than a year. So we see that there's this difference. So 11% have been using it for more than 3 years, while 9% are just beginning. So that middle range, they're either not using it at all, or they're in that first year or two in that phase of developing their social media. So on our second graphic, we're going to ask this question of why use social media. Notice that increased exposure for business is the top reason marketers use it. So when we talk about this increased exposure, you can kind of think about it like this. When we talk about increased exposure, you're making your product instantly recognizable. It doesn't take anybody at all to look at these images and instantly know that those are Apple products. That's an increased exposure. By developing commercials and developing their products to visually differentiate themselves from other competitors, when you see those products, you know who that producer is. When you see people with those in their hands, when you see commercials, you know instantly those are Apple products. By increasing the exposure, you're going to improve sales, which is why 43% don't make the top reason is to increase sales, because they know that their sales are going to improve simply by increasing their exposure and their traffic. So they can focus more on the visual aspect of trying to make their product more recognizable, increasing exposure, and they know that they don't have to focus on improving sales because that's something that's going to develop as a result of other factors. Okay, so let's look on this one. We're going to talk about trends in the marketing mix. So the first thing here we're going to start with is social media. So social marketing budgets will double over the next 5 years. In other words, this isn't something that's just beginning. This is something that's beginning, it's moving along, and it's about to just explode and be everywhere. So that's something important. Remember, though, the next 5 years, you're going to see more and more social media marketing. So emails with social sharing buttons, these social sharing buttons, so you get this email, you can instantly just like it, you can follow it, you can share it with other people. And so that increases click rates by 158%, which is exactly what they're trying to do. The more clicks they get, the more information they have on their customers. And that's an increasingly important part. By clicking through these, that helps them to develop who's liking what types of people, where they're trying to market to. You'll see that from a content perspective, nearly 50% of companies have content marketing strategy. That's probably going to increase more and more and more. 33% from an SEO, so 33% of traffic from Google's organic search results go to the first item listed. SEO, these are about the searches. So when you Google something, it's extremely important for a company to be at the top of that list. The higher they can get on that Google search list, the more likely you are to click on them, because 33%, you'll see here, just click right on the first link. So in other words, 1 out of every 3 people who Google something click on the very first link without looking at anything else. So from a company perspective, increasing your way up that list is an important factor. And then you'll see down here 67% of B2B content, which is business to business. Marketers consider event marketing the most effective strategy. So event marketing, getting their name out there, getting these events, the different things. That's why you see all this stuff about Black Friday, you know, the stuff on Mondays, all of these different dates which they have these special sales on, tax-free holidays. These are important events that they want to get out there to get people within their stores. So all of these trends you can see developing within the markets. Okay, so on our last slide, we're going to answer this question of why go social. So what is the value of having a presence online? So we're trying to establish a value from a dollar figure of having an online presence for a company. So we have here a few small reasons from small business perspective. So this is when we talk to top new customers. So look at this number, 78% of small business now get at least 1/4. That's, in other words, that's 25% of new customers via social media. So how are small businesses becoming more successful within the market? Social media. 78% of their new customers basically come from the fact that social media is how they found out about that small business. So if you're a small business owner, having a website, having an online presence is a crucial part of your small business development. You know, 61% of young people refer to social media, young people meaning you, to decide where to go when they go out. So you have all of these different options here. And all of these things have an influence on where it is you're going and when you're going. From a business perspective, understanding that helps them to determine a lot of the things they're going to do. Small businesses can use this to advantage and promote events to teenagers during specific times. We look at this customer engagement. So 27% of Americans check their social networks several times a day. 35% of Americans check brand pages. And altogether, social media takes up 27% of time online. So if just over 1/4 of your time online is spent looking at social media, should you not be marketing to social media? And any company that's not essentially is putting themselves behind the 8 ball because they aren't maximizing their profits, which, remember when we talked about it, that should be the goal of every firm. So let's look at the reach here. So I've got this bracketed: 200 million Twitter users, 1 billion Facebook users, 343 million Google Plus, and 225 LinkedIn. These, when we talk about it, customer engagement, we're talking about exposure. When we're trying to reach all these people, these are all potential customers. So from a social media perspective and looking at the value of it for small businesses can make a major gain within the market share by using social media, because look at all the potential customers they have the ability to reach and the exposure that they can gain access to because of the number of people online and what they're looking at. So that is the value of the social media marketing. It's not this old newspaper ads and billboards anymore. It's a much different content marketing, and you can see the potential they have to reach.